Here's your host, Rob McClendon.
Well, from the presidential campaign trail to the halls of our own state capitol, there's plenty of ongoing debate on how best to create jobs. Some say lower taxes, others say less regulation, while some believe we may need more investment into our infrastructure. But one thing everyone can all agree on is we are doing some things right because Oklahoma's economy is outpacing the nation's. Today, we're going to focus on job creation by talking to the experts whose job it is to attract jobs into the state. And nowhere have they been more successful in recent months than in Oklahoma City, which is where we begin. At a time when much of the United States is still struggling to recover from the Great Recession, Oklahoma City's economy is booming. Everything from new jobs to new buildings are springing up all around town.
The job situation is really at a phenomenal pace right now. Across the country, a lot of the metropolitan areas have been struggling a lot, but we continue to lead the nation in unemployment rate here. So we have many, many companies that are actively hiring, actively engaged in relocation here, and so we're seeing some extremely positive signs.
Success, Oklahoma City Chamber President Roy Williams says, didn't happen by accident.
We've made a significant investment on our community over the last 20 years, which means we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money on creating a quality place.
A quality of life that Devon's Larry Nichols says attracts both quality jobs and quality employees.
Because if Oklahoma City had stayed the way it was back in the late 80s and early 90s, we would have had to have left Oklahoma because we could not attract people here. But with MAPS 1 and all the other programs that the city has done, the resurgence in downtown Oklahoma City is truly incredible. And that allows us to attract people from Texas and all around the country to come here and work.
I grew up in Oklahoma when it was primarily oil and cattle.
George Preddy knows just a bit about business development. As a partner with the Parker Poe law firm, Preddy advises businesses around the globe on finding the right site for expansion or relocation.
Companies that are committed to workforce training are the companies that Oklahoma wants. It's a partnership which the company and the state, if they sit down, talk about what their needs are, talk about global competition, talk about things that they are seeing around the world and preserving the best for America. That's the dialogue that needs to happen.
And whether those jobs develop in Oklahoma or somewhere else can hinge on any number of things, but a skilled workforce is often critical.
You can call it talent or you can call it workforce.
Atlanta-based site consultant Dale Boyette.
For white-collar jobs, you're talking talent, and that is the critical thing. Is the talent going to be there today, and is the talent going to be there in the future? And those are the critical things that people are going to look at, because if you don't have the workforce, if you don't have the talent to meet that needs of the company today and long term, you're not going to be successful.
And while a well-trained workforce can make the difference, Boyette says when trying to land a new business, communities can never forget a company's bottom line.
People are looking at cost. The United States is not the low-cost venue anymore. So they are looking at cost offsets to offset those short-term costs and those startup costs as well as those long-term costs.
In 1994, Oklahoma implemented the Quality Jobs Program, incentives that give cash rebates to companies that expand or create new jobs in the state. And it was in 2001 that state lawmakers turned Oklahoma into a right-to-work state.
Oklahoma made that bold statement, and they've changed the message to the business community in this country and around the world.
But even the most lucrative of incentives and business-friendly practices can't always compete with certain intangibles. Now, I'm standing in front of the old McCruiser plant in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Now, for more than 35 years, workers here cranked out parts for boat engines. But in 2009, McCruiser's parent company, Mercury Marine, was in the middle of contract negotiations with union workers in its hometown of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Now, when those went sour, Mercury Marine announced they were considering moving all the Wisconsin jobs south to the right-to-work state of Oklahoma. Local lawmakers here in Stillwater worked overtime to craft a special set of incentives to attract the company here. But within days of that announcement, jubilation in Stillwater turned into heartache when company officials and union leaders back in Wisconsin reached an accord that instead of moving jobs south to Oklahoma, instead shuttered this plant, costing more than 400 workers their jobs and this city $84 million in economic activity.
Quality of life issues are very important. I think a lot of times many times we'll have a situation where there is a unique factor no state can overcome. If there is a tie there or there's a connection. Conversely, if there is a connection with Oklahoma, there's a personal connection, a friendship that's developed, a level of trust, a level of understanding of the business's needs, all the work of the Department of Commerce to get close to companies, to understand their problems, to appreciate what they're trying to do, to help provide a solution to management about how to overcome the challenges that management's facing over the next 10 years. Those are things which bind the state to a company, and when good things are about to happen, then Oklahoma is typically there, ready to be a part of that.
So when it comes to incentives and tax credits, they can be a double-edged sword in the pursuit of jobs. Some states and local municipalities have financially gotten themselves upside down when prospective companies have overpromised and then underdelivered. And in today's global economy, where more and more companies are less and less tied to location, for every business development winner, there are more than a handful of losers, which is why it's often referred to as the economic development game, because you can't win them all.